The sound of a slap in a luxury boutique doesn't echo. Marble absorbs it, the staff absorbs it, and years of training tell a woman like Jasmine Faith to absorb it too. She didn't. Jasmine Faith is a black woman, 28 years old, beautiful and composed, working as a cashier and de facto style consultant at Maison Heir, one of the most expensive women's boutiques in the city. She knows the inventory better than the managers do. She has prevented fraud, redirected sales, and redesigned windows. She has done all of it on a cashier's wage, under a cashier's title, in a store she was never quite meant to feel at home in. On a Saturday morning, a woman named Lena Seo walks through the door. She is 22. She is beautiful. She is engaged to the heir of the family, whose name appears on the building's ownership papers, and she has spent her life learning that beauty and proximity to money can function as permission. Permission to be rude, permission to take what she wants, and permission to punish anyone who disagrees. What Lena doesn't know, what no one in that store has thought to consider, is that the man who actually owns Maison Heir is in the building, and that this particular store means something to him that no one in that room has ever been told. Kang Tae-jun, chairman of the Kang Group, known in certain circles as the Silent Landlord. Black ink serpent tattooed on the left side of his neck. A man who has made large decisions without raising his voice for 20 years. He was in the security office upstairs when Lena walked in. He watched the entire thing. When the slap landed, he was already on his way down. What he does next doesn't just cost Lena the engagement. It costs her something she assumed was permanent. The protection she thought a powerful name could buy. And Jasmine Faith, who only wanted to do her job with her dignity intact, is about to discover that the one person paying close enough attention to see exactly who she is has more power than anyone in that store ever imagined. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. The client on Register 3 had already changed her mind twice. Jasmine Faith processed the return without a sigh, refolded the blouse in tissue, and placed it back in the branded bag the way she'd been shown on her first day. Edges aligned, logo centered. Tissue pulled up like a white wing over the fabric. "You're sure about the black?" the woman asked again. Jasmine told her the black would hold. For every occasion the cobalt wouldn't. The woman left with the black. She always did. That was the third sale. Jasmine had redirected this morning. She hadn't been asked to do any of them. She was the cashier. Maison Heir occupied the 4th floor of Galeria Soleil, the kind of mall where the parking attendants wore blazers and the food court served tartare. The boutique was 60 meters of cream marble, gold fixtures, and the quiet hum of money being spent the way water is drunk, without thinking about it. The display windows faced the atrium. The back wall held the season's new arrivals behind glass. The register where Jasmine worked was at the front left, positioned to see both the entrance and the floor. She could see everything from here. That was the part no one had thought about when they assigned her this station. On the back rack, third piece from the right, the pearlescent white dress had been hanging slightly wrong since Thursday, not crooked. The security tag on the inside lining had partially detached from its anchor stitch. It was a limited edition piece, inventory code LE07, priced at $4,080. Jasmine had flagged it to Diane Yoon twice. Diane had said she'd handle it. The dress was still there. It would be a problem. She already knew that the way she knew most things in this store. By the system, by the pattern, by the particular texture of being the person who noticed things no one thanked her for noticing. At 11:43, the glass doors opened. 3 women entered. The one in the center wore ivory silk and carried a cream handbag that cost more than Jasmine's last 3 paychecks. Sunglasses pushed into jet black hair. A small mole beneath her left eye. She moved like someone who expected the room to rearrange itself around her. And the room did. 2 of the floor attendants stepped forward immediately. Diane Yoon emerged from the back corridor and smiled with her whole face. The woman's name, as Jasmine would learn it minutes later, was Lena Seo, fiancée to Minho Kang, nearly a member of the family that owned the building Jasmine was standing in. Lena drifted through the floor the way fire moves when it has no particular direction. Not violent, just consuming. She touched things without committing to them. She said the champagne was warm, she said. The lighting made the green pieces look muted. She said she'd seen the same rack configuration at the location in Seoul, and they'd done it differently there. The floor staff adjusted, refilled, nodded. Diane Yoon followed 3 steps behind, with her clipboard, absorbing every complaint as though taking notes for a performance review she was failing. One of Lena's friends stopped near the register. "That dress," the friend said, nodding at Jasmine, "the one she's wearing. Doesn't it look better on her than on the mannequin?" Lena stopped. She looked at Jasmine the way a woman looks at something that offends her by existing. Then she walked to the back rack, lifted LE07 from its hanger, and carried it toward the fitting room without speaking to anyone. She came out wearing it 14 minutes later. The dress fit her well, but that wasn't what she was looking at. She set the dress on the register counter and told Jasmine to ring it up. Jasmine pulled the item number, saw the incomplete registration, and explained, quietly, the same way she explained everything, that LE07 required a secondary verification before sale. Internal protocol for limited edition inventory over 3,000. It would take 4 minutes. Lena's expression didn't change. Ring it up. "I'm not able to finalize that sale without the verification code, ma'am. It's to protect your purchase." "I know what I'm purchasing, yes. And 4 minutes ensures it leaves the store correctly documented under your name." Lena leaned forward. "Do you have any idea who I am?" Jasmine looked at her, level, unhurried. "You're a client, which is exactly why I'm making sure the transaction is clean." The answer was correct. It was professional. It left no opening, and it made everything worse. Lena's hand came up and came down before Jasmine could track the motion. The sound it made against her cheek was flat and sharp, the kind of sound that stops a room. Jasmine's face turned with the impact. Her left hand went to her cheek without being told to. For 2 seconds she stood completely still. Then she straightened. "You have just struck an employee during business hours," she said. Her voice did not shake. "Security will be called." Lena smiled. "Call whoever you want. This store belongs to my fiancé's family." A voice came from the entrance. Quiet. Absolute. It did. The man in the doorway was wearing a charcoal wool suit over a black turtleneck. He was not tall in a way that demanded attention. He demanded it anyway. Kang Tae-jun walked the length of Maison Elara, like someone checking the temperature of a room. Deliberate, measured, missing nothing. 2 men in dark coats remained at the entrance behind him. Nobody had seen him arrive. Lena's smile held for 3 more seconds. Then it didn't. Tae-jun-si. She adjusted her posture. "There's been a misunderstanding." He didn't look at her. He looked at Jasmine. The mark on her cheek was faint and darkening. He held that image for a long moment, the way a man holds a document he already knows how to read. Then he turned to Diane Yoon. "The footage from this morning. Pull it." Diane moved to the back office without a word. Lena tried again. "She refused to process my purchase. She was rude and confrontational from the start." "I was in the security room," Tae-jun said. "I watched the monitor for 9 minutes before I walked through that door." He let the sentence land. "I saw everything." The 3 words removed every argument Lena had been building. He pulled a chair from behind the nearest display table, set it in front of the office monitor Diane had opened, and sat. He watched the footage from the beginning. Lena entering, the performance for her friends, the floor staff adjusting to her movements, Jasmine at the register doing her job, then being approached, then explaining the protocol twice in measured language, then the hand coming down. He watched it twice. Then he stood, buttoned his jacket, and said, "Close the store." Diane stared at him. "Now?" "Now." The glass security shutters, the ones Jasmine had only ever seen used after hours, began to lower. The 2 remaining clients on the floor were escorted out by the staff. Lena's friends backed toward the entrance, phones pressed flat against their sides. "You're closing your own store," Lena said. "Over her?" Taejun turned to his security director and said, "Pull Jasmine Faith's last 4 months of floor activity. Everything. Fraud flags, incident reports, internal proposals, client transactions." It took 11 minutes. What appeared on the monitor was not what anyone in that room had expected, except perhaps Jasmine herself. 6 attempted high-value fraud schemes she had caught and reported, all logged under general staff actions with no attribution. A window display proposal submitted in October under the initials JF approved the following week under the signature of a senior consultant who was no longer employed there. 43 client transactions in which post-sale satisfaction ratings appeared for attendants who had, per the footage, not been the ones making the recommendations. Taejun read through it in silence. Then he looked at Jasmine, directly without performance. "How long have you worked here?" 8 months. He nodded once. Then he turned to Diane Yoon. "Your contract is suspended pending full review. Leave the floor." Minho Kang arrived 22 minutes after his father called him. He came through the staff entrance, the back door, not the front, and that choice was its own kind of answer. He wore a navy blazer with no tie and the expression of a man who had been inconvenienced. He kissed the air near Lena's cheek, squeezed her hand, and turned to his father. "Baba, I understand there was an incident. Whatever damage was done, we'll compensate her fairly and look at her face," Taejun said. Minho glanced at Jasmine, a brief, slightly uncomfortable scan that landed nowhere near her eyes. "It was just a slap," he said. The words reached every corner of the store. Jasmine stood at the register. The marble floor reflected the overhead lights. The shutters were still down. The store was entirely empty except for the 6 people in it. She was holding her cashier credentials in both hands, the laminated card with her photo, her name, her position title. She wasn't holding it to present it. She was holding it because she needed to hold something that was entirely hers. 8 months of flagged frauds, 8 months of redirected sales and redesigned windows and protocol maintained under pressure. 8 months of being right in a room that was built to make her feel optional, and a man who stood next to the woman who hit her was calling it nothing. She did not cry. She had learned a long time ago that crying in this room cost more than it released. She stood with the card in both hands and she breathed, and she waited, and she did not look away. Taejun looked at his son for a long moment without speaking. Then he said, "I want to tell you something about why this store exists." No one moved. 4 years before your mother died, she came to this mall alone. She didn't tell me she was coming. She was having a bad week. One of the weeks where everything felt heavier than it should. She walked into this store, and there was a young woman working the register. Your mother looked at 3 dresses and couldn't decide. The woman didn't push her. She watched your mother for a minute, then pulled a 4th dress from a rack that wasn't even on display, and said quietly that this one had better weight to it, that it would carry her through whatever she was carrying that day. He paused. Your mother called me that night. She said that woman had given her back something she didn't know she'd lost. I bought this store because of that afternoon. I've run it ever since on one principle. The most important person in this room is not always the one wearing the most expensive clothes. He looked at Minho. She told you it was just a slap. I didn't. You repeated it, as if saying it smaller made it true. Taejun reached into his jacket and placed a single document on the register counter. You're removed from Maison Elara's directorship, effective today. You'll receive the formal transfer of the other 2 properties for review next week. I suggest you use the time to think about what your mother would have said about today. Minho didn't answer. Taejun turned to Lena. You are barred from every commercial property under the Kang Group. If you enter any of them, you will be removed. This is not negotiable, and it is not personal. You demonstrated exactly who you are in a place that mattered to me, and I've made my decision. Lena opened her mouth once, closed it. She picked up her handbag from the counter, the pearlescent dress still folded beside it, never purchased, and walked out through the staff entrance. Her friends were already gone. Taejin waited until the door closed. Then he walked to the register and stood across from Jasmine. He did not speak for a moment. He looked at the cashier credentials she was still holding. "You already knew about the security tag on that dress," he said. "It was not a question. I flagged it twice, and you held the protocol anyway. That's what the protocol is for." He was quiet again. Then, "I want to offer you the position of Client Experience Director at Maison Elara. The full authority your work has required for the last 8 months. Salary adjusted to the level the role actually carries. You report to me directly, not through a manager. The floor is yours." Jasmine looked at him. "Is this guilt?" "Guilt is flowers," he said. "This is a correction." She held the laminated card a moment longer. Then she set it on the counter. "I'll need it in writing. It will be on your desk Monday morning." 3 weeks later, Maison Elara reopened with a new campaign. The window display was Jasmine's. Not pitched through a consultant, not routed through a committee. Clean frames, real women, real light. A single phrase across the glass in matte white lettering. "Elegance starts before the clothes." The campaign ran in 4 cities. It became the boutique group's most shared image of the quarter. On the night of the reopening, Jasmine closed the store alone. She moved through the floor the way she always had, checking, adjusting, noting what needed to be done tomorrow. She turned the last light off at the register. The security gate descended slowly. In the glass, she saw herself, honey skin, caramel dress, straight back, keys in her right hand. In the office monitor upstairs, Kang Taejin watched the feed until the gate touched the floor. He didn't save her. He knew that. She had been doing this work for 8 months before he ever looked at the screen. What he'd done was look. And sometimes, when the system is large enough and silent enough and designed well enough to keep the right people invisible, sometimes that is the correction the whole structure needs. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever spent months doing work that made someone else's name shine and stayed silent because the system told you that was just the job? Have you ever been treated as though your worth was determined by your title, when the person delivering that judgment had never once looked at what you actually built? And have you ever been called just something, just a cashier, just an employee, just a detail, by someone who needed you to be small so they could feel large? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about dignity, justice, and the value of being truly seen, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.